This is just a short video about my experiences, a couple of them with dead dogs. And it's come about because when I have my lunch, I quite often put in half an hour watching YouTube New Thinking Aloud with Jeffrey Mishlove, which is conversations on the leading edge of, hang on, check the notes, knowledge and discovery. And the other day it was on intuitive animals in the afterlife by intuitive animal communicator Miranda Alcott. And I really enjoyed it because, of course, it sort of validates some of my own life experiences. But I thought afterwards, even though I've written about these two stories, not many people buy my books. So I thought, why don't I put them on YouTube? And that way they might reach more people who are worried about what's happening with their dead animals. So the most recent one happened when my now 30-year-old daughter was a teenager. And we had a little Jack Russell puppy, and she was cute as, but we'd only had her a couple of weeks, and both my husband and I knew she wasn't going to make old bones. She was just one of those creatures with no idea of self-protection or anything. She was very sweet. Just before her first birthday, I called the dogs. We lived in the country, and they tended to nick off to the river that bordered the property if they could. So I called, and only the male came back. And so I went inside, and I was doing some ironing. I shut all the doors to keep the flies out, Australian summers. And I heard her come back. I heard the female. She was running around the house trying to get in, but I had all the doors shut. So anyway, I finished a couple of things. I called out to her and said, you know, you can just wait there until I finished ironing. But it was only a few minutes when I opened the front door, and she was nearly dead. She'd obviously been bitten by a snake. So, yeah, she died a few minutes later, and I still feel guilty that she was trying to get to me, and I had the door shut, but there was nothing I could have done. We were over an hour from the nearest vet, so that was it. And anyway, I popped her body out near the shed and covered it, because I thought the children might want to see her body before we buried it. And anyway, the kids came home, and we all we dug a grave for her and in the front garden, and we went and got her little body and we popped her in the grave. And all was good for me, because as we were, you know, we put some of her toys in there, and then we were covering her up, and I could hear her barking at the back of the house where I'd put her body. And all of a sudden I realised I was looking at my eldest girl, and her jaw and her mouth had dropped open. She was so shocked, and I realised that she could hear the dog too. And I said, you can hear her, can't you? And she said yes. So I had some corroboration in that. I was skeptic and soon blast that out of the water, but the pair of us could hear this little dog. And she was a little dog that loved following me up the driveway, walking the children up to the school bus in the morning and to greet them in the afternoon. She kept doing that. I could both feel and hear her sometimes behind me at my heels. As I went up the drive with the kids, she was there for a good year or so afterwards. Okay, so that was the first one. The second one was probably, you know, might be a bit harder to explain if you're a skeptic. It happened when our youngest daughter was just still a baby, and we were living in the hills outside Melbourne, and we bought this property that was a bank repossession. And it had been quite damaged. There was no kitchen. It had had a huge 10-person spa in the place that had been ripped out. And we covered that up and built like a platform on top of it and put our bed on top of this gaping hole in the floor. And it was it had been an old nursery, so it was a bit like an indoor-outdoor room. It was rather magical. Anyway, we moved in there, and I was already sleep deprived. My youngest didn't sleep very well at all for many years. And every night I discovered I would wake up around about the same time in the early hours of the morning with footsteps running up the house, quite a long. It had a very long tiled corridor. And I could hear footsteps running up towards where I was. And it woke me up nearly every night for many, many months. And a few other odd things happened at the same time. I guess, I'm sensitive to those things, and I was aware that whatever it was very attached to our youngest daughter. She had a horrible wind-up toy that I used to put on a top shelf so I didn't have to play. It was a bit creepy, like something out of a horror movie. Its little head wasn't working right. You wind it up and it played music and its head sort of went, and it looked really scary. So I used to stick it away where she wouldn't like it. She loved it. And I was changing her nappy one day and she just pointed at it and it started to play up on the shelf. That was one thing. And another time we were out late. We didn't often stay out late at that stage because, well, I was just exhausted all the time. But we were out late this night, and when we got home and we were putting the youngest in her cot, this light just shot in the room and ran around the room. I could literally hear it, feel it saying, is she all right? Where have you been, more or less? Anyway, long story short, after many, many months, one night, I not only hear it running to the bed and wakes me up, but when I'm awake, it comes right up to my head and I can hear this heavy breathing in my ear, which was, for a moment, quite terrifying. Until I heard a voice say, "Don't worry, it's a dog and it's wet and it wants to shake on you." And I thought, oh, okay. Well, probably because of the remnants of fear, I had a word to whatever it was and said, we live here now and you need to leave. And it was the only time I ever heard it turn around and walk back out of the house. Not long after that, we moved overseas, rented the house out to two women. Eventually, they asked to buy it and we did sell it to them. And after they bought it, I had to go back when I came back from overseas and just pick up a few bits and pieces that had been left there. And I felt an overwhelming compulsion to tell them. I actually felt guilty again that I had put the dog outdoors but hadn't sent it to the light. So I was very worried that it was not happy. And I felt this incredible compulsion to tell these two virtual strangers about this recurrent dog visiting. And so I did, because I learned to act on those nudgings from spirit, and they both sort of swung their eyes around and looked at each other, and I thought, oh, here we go, they think I'm a total lunatic. And then one of them said that the other one had been having a repeated dream of a dog drowning, and they had become so concerned about this repetitive dream that they were about to concrete in a spring on the property because they thought it was a message that their dogs were going to drown, or one of their dogs was going to drown. And so I had confirmation of this wet dog, which I'm presuming, and I feel I'm correct, that it had drowned in the spa and that it visited where the spa was, which was also unrelated to where my bed was every night. So there you are. Animals do survive death, and in this case, it actually formed a new attachment to my youngest daughter. So they're conscious. They're not just a repeat program, as some people would have you believe that, it's just because it was a traumatic death and it's some repetitive pattern. No, this dog interacted and it loved my youngest daughter. I know it did. So there's more to heaven and earth than we tend to allow ourselves to believe. We're really constricted by what we believe about the afterlife. For me too, it illustrates that there isn't just a group dog soul. Things survive with individuality. That's the wonder of the universe, is that we can be the one conscious energy, and at the same time we're still an individual entity within that, which is fabulous. So anyone out there who's lost a dog and they're really, really worried, or a cat or a bird or anything else in the animal kingdom, and you think that they've ended, no, they're still there. They still love you. They still visit, and you will see them again. Thank you.